Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progress in Action. You know, tomorrow is Super Tuesday, and it's a big day. And guys and gals, if you are in a state that is voting tomorrow, there's never been a time that is more important to actually show up and vote. Go through whatever burden you need to do, whatever challenges they throw at you, whatever roadblocks, fight through them. I want to tell you, tomorrow is a make or break day on many levels. But it is even more it's a litmus test to see how far the establishment will go to thwart the will of the people. It is a litmus test, if you will, to find out whether the Democratic Party is content with losing to Donald Trump in 2020's primary general, or whether they are serious about trying to win the election. Joe Biden doesn't have half his faculties left anymore. He's a gaffe machine. He's a racist. He's sitting there nibbling on people's fingers. He is an absolute terror. The guy's a bumbling buffoon, but more importantly, on a very serious level, everything that you thought that you were fighting for, Joe Biden is absolutely not that guy. And I don't think I need to tell you about Elizabeth Warren. She has proven herself from start to finish to be the worst of all of them. A sellout, a turncoat, a charlatan. She knows she has absolutely zero path to victory. She knows she is absolutely, unapologetically not gaining the real progressive vote. The only thing she's there to do is to take away votes from Sanders. And there's Bernie, who's been nonstop for the last 5-6 years building a movement. Building a movement, trying to get us to where, he's been longer than that, really. Quite frankly, Sanders has been doing this forever. And it's only been in the last 4 or 5 years that people have really, really taken note that this guy's got something to say. He has been hugely accomplished in the Senate, even though people don't give him credit for it. He's been the amendment king everywhere he's been. He's always found ways to get pieces of important legislation through. But here we are on the verge of Super Tuesday. Mayor Pete drops out conveniently, even though he had actually won Iowa. Amy Klobuchar drops out because, well, after all, she can't win, right? You've got Steyer quits. So what do you have left? Bloomberg, who bought his way onto the stage, Biden, and Elizabeth Warren fighting against Bernie Sanders. What does that tell you? If Bernie Sanders wins these races with all of this against him, and the Democratic Party still chooses to thwart the will of the people by instituting some bullshit Stop Sanders platform with these bought and paid for lobbyists and plutocrats with the superdelegates, there is going to be massive upheaval in this nation, something that you've never seen before, at least not since the 60s. And I want to tell you something. You may not understand this. And if you don't, I haven't done my job, and I feel really bad about that. There's absolutely no way in the world you could ever support any candidate at this point other than Bernie Sanders if you had the least bit of knowledge of how economics works. You couldn't have supported any candidate other than Bernie Sanders. You wouldn't even flirt with another candidate other than Bernie Sanders. Because every other one of those candidates, their message is, we can't dream too big. We can't really go too far. We can't really do great things. Every one of them is advancing mediocrity and trying to make you think that they're advancing something to benefit you. And they're not. Folks, they act like pieces of paper that the United States government creates out of thin air. zeros and ones in a bank account. They act like these things are some precious commodity that are so scarce. And the nation is in debt looking for zeros and ones and pieces of paper. And we can't have pieces of paper and zeros and ones unless we borrow from China or some bullshit like that. And there are people out there, folks, that believe that shit. They believe it in their heart. And it's because people within the progressive community refused to prioritize explaining how we could pay for these programs a long time ago. They thought it was good enough just to go fist in the air, Bernie, and not explain how this broad vision was really possible. It's not only possible, it's 100% doable. But we didn't make that case yet. A lot of us are trying round the clock to do this. But many people thought they were slick and bypassed this message. And now we're coming into Super Tuesday, where the question is not Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden or whatever. The question is really, can we do great things, or are we stuck and we can't dream big? Are we really not worth saving from climate change? Because that's the question you're going to find tomorrow. It may not be stated out loud, but that's really what's at stake. Is climate change real? Is this emergency really happening? Are there really climate refugees? Is there really an immigration problem brought on by false scarcity around the world? Are we really going to war because we're defending our freedoms? Or are we going to war in protection of fossil fuels that we could get away from if we had a proper presidency like a Bernie Sanders? What exactly do you think would make someone vote for a Joe Biden or an Elizabeth Warren? For real, folks, sorry, progressives that think you're progressive, but you're really not progressive if you thought you were voting for Elizabeth Warren. You are not a progressive. You're a lightweight. You're thimble deep wafer. You're an identity poll. You're gender plumbing vote. It's ridiculous. She was a born-again Reaganite, and she shows it all the time. Her love of markets, her applause for Trump when he denounced socialism. I mean, for God's sake, Bernie's not even pushing socialism. Social spending. All easily done. You guys sold us out if that's what you believe. Or you're a victim of the economic illiteracy plaguing the vast majority of the Democratic Party. And quite frankly, the vast majority of Americans in general and people around the world. You're not woke. You're not smart. You're trapped in a neoliberal paradigm that will bring about the end of most of our opportunity to survive climate crisis. The clock is ticking. And Joe Biden is here to slash and burn, to cut spending, to make us eat our peas. And the only way anyone would support that is if they're either Republican to begin with, or they're economically illiterate. And the two are not necessarily different. Conservatism in the United States knows no party boundary. The Democrats and the Republicans act precisely the same. The illusion of choice here in this election appears that there's all these choices, but it's not. It's Bernie Sanders against the world. It's really us against the world, because Joe Biden's not fighting for you. I don't care how many smiles he makes and gaffes he does that make you think he's lovable. The man's a bad guy. He's just a terrible human being. And Elizabeth Warren, keep the cutlery away from her hands, because if you turn your back, it's going right in. Klobuchar endorsed Biden. Mayo Pete endorsed Biden. Steyer shit all over Sanders. Clyburn endorsed Biden. The establishment is rallying around Biden right now. And Elizabeth Warren, who hasn't won shit, is only staying in the race to appear as the progressive choice. And you already see Julian Castro out there running around saying, hey, 95% of all the delegates are still up for grabs. Elizabeth Warren is the only one, he's saying. Another neoliberal shill. And many of you thought he was a decent guy. This is the problem. You thought these people were decent people. They're not. They're evil. They're bad. They're not good people. And they are not fighting for you or I. Tell me, what exactly is it that Joe Biden is fighting for you? Tell me. Tell me what he is fighting for. I'm waiting. I don't hear anything. What? He doesn't have a fucking plan at all. The guy is a boob. He's an imbecile. And he's a right-wing imbecile with austerity-minded politics. He's a dinosaur of a relic that no one should ever vote for. And Elizabeth Warren, folks, she is the devil. Straight up. A selfish, ego-driven, right-wing, faux progressive. She is no progressive at all. Folks, look through her history. I'm not joking. Many, many moons ago, she fought for a bankruptcy law, and that's the beginning and the ending of her progressive credentials. She has sold out on every single level. Every single level. And because of her gender, there are many that have given her a pass on that, and that is a damn shame. Weaponized identity politics is a horrific affront to humanity. And here we are on Super Tuesday with one guy with a coherent end-to-end strategy to make our lives better in Bernie Sanders. One person. But you didn't do the homework. You didn't bother to learn about his economic advisor. You didn't bother to learn how to pay for all of his programs. Go to the website. I've already talked about that. You're missing the point. These people don't want their taxes going up. Talk to regular people at Walmart. Talk to them in the streets. These people are sitting there saying, I don't want my taxes to go up. They don't understand because we didn't explain it. You were too busy running around talking about Julian Assange. You were too busy running around talking about this thing, that thing, the other thing, not realizing that in the end, if we don't take care of all the people, the big picture, not without taking care of Julian Assange, but together. But you didn't. You focused on these vigils, and that's all you did. You lost sight of the big picture. And now here we come into Super Tuesday, and you've got Elizabeth Warren bleeding support from our movement, and you've got Joe Biden sitting there getting the establishment Dems falling in line. They want to win. And if they don't win, they're willing to give it to Trump. We, the progressives, we don't want to win. We're too busy chasing snowflakes. We're chasing waterfalls. We can't unite behind the one guy who's got a movement because we're too fucking cool for school. Well, tomorrow, we got a chance. It doesn't matter if you've been running around behind the scenes talking about nonsense. Tomorrow, you have a chance to vote for Sanders and to give us a real shot. Because the only way we're going to be able to beat back the establishment is to crush them in overwhelming numbers. And for those people that have checked out and are doing nonsensical political bullshit that has no prayer in hell, and you're leaving the vast majority of progressives who are fighting for a Green New Deal, Medicare for all, student debt elimination, and you leave us high and dry, you'll never forgive yourself. I'll help you because I won't forgive you either. Tomorrow is the most important day in forever. But it's not the end of the road because it's a long slog because Sanders is probably going to win the vast majority of the states. It's going to be really, really tough to get to that veto-proof, superdelegate-proof number. And that means you got to be prepared to fight when it comes to convention time, no matter what Sanders says, because this is about us. Stop your hero worship. It's about us. It's about our survival. It's about our children and whether you want them to have to sit there and pay some jackass capitalist for their health care so that they can get screwed out of cancer treatment. It's up to us. It doesn't matter about Bernie. I love Bernie. We're fighting for Bernie, but I'm telling you, it's about you and me. If you don't like Bernie, that's irrelevant. Vote for the man anyway, because he is the only one fighting for this right now. Get over yourself. This is it. It's showtime. It's game time. It's game on. And from here to the end, you better be prepared to fight like mad, because they're going to wipe our asses with bullshit, gaslighting us, fucking around with the polls, fucking around with the news reportings. And you better not be one of those too cool for school ones, so woke you're asleep people that left us high and dry at the altar. Because you really won't forgive yourself when you see what's coming. Super Tuesdays tomorrow, my friends. For those of you who have been in the fight, thank you so much for everything that you've done. It's been heroic, the work the volunteers have been doing, trying to knock on doors and fight tooth and nail for Bernie Sanders. I only hope that we were enough against an establishment determined to deprive us of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progress in Action. Please go and vote tomorrow for Bernie Sanders. I'm out.